The Awakening of the Chosen. Welcome everyone to the Awakening of the Chosen channel. I'm Gabriel, and in the next few minutes of getting to know you, I want to speak directly to you. That's right, chosen. This is a reserved space, a unique moment for those who know that there is more to the world than what we see on the surface. If you are here now, it is not by chance. Have you ever wondered why certain trials seem to challenge you so intensely? Or why, in the midst of all the difficulties, an almost invisible force lifts you up and pushes you forward? This is a space where we will explore this strength. Let's talk about your power, about what makes you unique. You were made for something big, something that you may not even fully understand yet. But I guarantee, this is your moment. In the next few minutes, we will delve deeper into what others ignore, understand what few truly see, the secret behind your own spiritual energy, and why you are constantly challenged and tested. We are talking about a journey where you will not only survive, but overcome. Here, we will reveal secrets that have been hidden for generations, warnings that many cannot even imagine, and a path that is about to open up before you, but that requires your attention now. So, if you're ready to discover what makes your existence rare and powerful, stay with me until the end. There is a message here that could be the answer you were looking for. If you are here, reading this, know that there is something deeper than simply words on a screen. Perhaps you have been called to find this message, as if led by an invisible force that guides you, that leads you to a higher understanding. This is a rare calling, one that few experience, because it does not resonate with ordinary ears. It is felt at the core, in the spirit, like a subtle breeze that touches our soul and awakens questioning, a restlessness that, for many, is difficult to explain. This divine calling experience is not for everyone, and this is a fundamental point that we must understand. For those who are chosen, and I say chosen with all the responsibility and weight that word carries, there is something beyond, a unique spiritual connection, a purpose that transcends the trivialities of everyday life. You, as a chosen one, feel this force and understand it. This is not something that can be learned or acquired through a study or course. It is something that is born from a divine touch, from an inexplicable connection with the universe, or with the Creator himself, if you prefer to call it that. This exclusivity is what makes the chosen ones special, because they were selected for something greater. It can be difficult to carry this idea with you, and I don't say that without understanding the seriousness of such a statement. It is not a question of superiority, of elevation over others, but of responsibility and mission. Many will say that we are all equal, and in a way there is truth in that, as we all have the potential to awaken spiritually. But at the same time, we must admit that some of us feel the call more intensely, in ways that we cannot ignore. And this is what differentiates the chosen ones. The divine calling is real, and they know it with all their essence. Those who feel this calling, this special summons, live in a kind of duality. On the one hand, they know they have a mission to fulfill, a role to play, a path that needs to be followed. On the other hand, they feel the weight of this responsibility and the difficulties that come with it. There are days when the walk seems lonely, when the world seems blind to the spiritual truth that pulses within them. In these moments, the chosen ones can feel isolated, as if they are foreigners in a land that does not understand them. This feeling of exclusivity, although great, can also be painful and lonely. However, it is in this isolation that many find the power and strength to move forward, knowing that their journey is important and necessary. Those chosen understand that once summoned, there is no way to escape this mission. It's like a spiritual mark that remains, that echoes in your mind and heart. Running away from this is running away from yourself, from your essence. And anyone who has felt this call knows that ignoring it is impossible. It's a feeling of being constantly reminded that there is something more, something that still needs to be done, that still needs to be revealed and accomplished. Many will try to stray from the path. They will get lost for a moment. But the truth is that those chosen always return, in one way or another, to their purpose. Not because they want to, but because they need to, because they were called. This idea that not everyone will understand is, in a way, liberating and also challenging. Liberating because we don't need to convince the world about what we feel. We don't need to prove anything. Whoever was chosen knows, and that is enough. There is no need for external validation, for recognition from others. We know that the calling is real, that the force that guides us is true. At the same time, it is challenging, because we live in a world where the need for validation is constant, where recognition seems to be proof of value. However, those chosen know that the value of their mission is not in the world's applause, but in fulfilling what was assigned to them. Understanding this exclusivity is one of the first steps to embracing the mission. The journey is not about convincing others that we are special or that our purpose is superior, but rather about accepting, humbly and firmly, that we were chosen for a reason. The very idea of being a chosen one is not to feed the ego, but to remind us of the service, the surrender, the sacrifice that is often necessary. In our society, where the self is constantly glorified, the chosen are those who place something greater above themselves, who understand that their journey is a divine calling and that it must be honored, even when the world does not understand. Those who hear and feel this call are often led down unexpected paths, into encounters and experiences that cannot be explained by logic or reason. And it is precisely in these moments that they realize how deep the connection they have with the spiritual is. These events are like reminders that you are on the right path, that your presence here is intentional, that your actions matter. The chosen ones know this, they feel this, and this realization is a comfort and a confirmation that they are not alone in their mission. Ultimately, this call is something that transcends time and space. It is not limited to one life, one moment, or one achievement. Being chosen means being in constant growth, in search of a greater truth, of a light that never goes out. And if you feel this, if this call echoes in your soul, know that you are not alone. There are others like you, spread across the world, each doing their part, each bringing light where there is darkness, each faithfully following the path to which they were called. This exclusivity is a mark, but it is also an honor. Because being chosen is more than simply living, it is living with purpose, with awareness, with the clarity that we are here for something bigger than ourselves. And that, for me, is one of the most beautiful and profound truths anyone can experience. You have been chosen for a mission, and it is time to embrace this truth with courage, with faith, and with the certainty that the calling you feel is real and necessary. If you are one of the chosen ones, then you know what it is like, that feeling, sometimes slight, sometimes almost overwhelming, of being watched. It's a strange weight, an awareness that, even when we are alone, someone or something is there, accompanying us. For many, this sensation would be easily dismissed as paranoia, a creation of the mind in a moment of restlessness. But the chosen ones know the truth. This presence is real. It is not a figment of imagination or fear. It is a spiritual manifestation, a sign that, from a very early age, we carry a light that draws the attention of forces beyond what the eyes can see. This spiritual attention that we feel is not recent, nor is it a discovery in adult life. On the contrary, many of us can remember our early years, our childhood, when we already felt this look. There are memories of moments when, alone, we felt the presence of something else, a sensation that, even without fully understanding it, seemed familiar. For some, this feeling was comforting. For others, perhaps unsettling. But it was always there, as a reminder that, from the moment we were born, we were part of something bigger. From the beginning, there was an attention on us, a constant, inexplicable presence that we somehow knew was there. To be a chosen one is to constantly be under the attention of two opposing forces. There is the beneficial presence, the divine attention that guides us, protects us, inspires us to fulfill our purpose with courage and truth. But there are also those who oppose the light we carry, forces that would rather we remain dormant, that we not be able to see beyond the surface. And these forces also watch, they also prowl, waiting for an opening, a moment of vulnerability. Thus, the lives of the chosen ones are permeated by this continuous vigilance, this dance between light and shadow. It is not just benevolent attention, but a silent battle, an invisible war that takes place all around us. And perhaps you have asked yourself at some point, why this attention? Why do the chosen ones seem to attract such intense surveillance from such a young age? The answer is in our light. The chosen ones carry something special, something that other forces notice, even if many around us don't. It's a kind of inner flame, an energy that inevitably attracts attention. And those looks aren't always gentle. It's like being a candle lit in the middle of darkness. Its presence reveals what was hidden, and this is uncomfortable. Both good spirits and opponents of the light know the impact we can have, the transformation we can cause. But this is not just passive surveillance. Being observed on this spiritual level is also a process of refinement. With each step we take, with each decision, we are tested, observed to see how we react to situations, how we deal with our shadows, our fears, our failures. This attention is like a mirror, a constant reminder that we are being shaped to become increasingly pure versions of ourselves. There is a purpose for this attention. It's not just curiosity. There is an intention to grow our spirits, to guide us to our highest potential. And for the chosen ones, this deep spiritual attention is something that, over time, becomes almost natural. We get used to it. We learn to perceive the presence that surrounds us, to identify the moments in which we are most vulnerable and those in which we feel most strengthened. And more than that, we begin to understand the value of this process, the importance of being constantly observed. Because this vigilance is not a punishment, but a blessing in disguise. It keeps us alert. It forces us to live with integrity, knowing that we are not alone, that our actions carry weight, that our steps matter. There is deep comfort in knowing that our journey is accompanied, that our spiritual growth is a priority for forces that surround and guide us. This reality of being observed, far from being paranoia, is a reminder that we have a role to play, that we are important on a spiritual level. And even when that presence feels heavy, when we feel the weariness of being under constant attention, there is a peace we can find in that truth. Because being under the gaze of the spiritual is knowing that we are connected to something greater, that our existence has a purpose, and that we are part of a plan that does not allow our light to be ignored. This attention is real and is part of being who we are. Carrying this awareness is both a privilege and a responsibility. Every day, we are called to live with the certainty that our lives matter, that every choice we make is observed, and that even in the darkest hours, we are accompanied. Those who are chosen carry within themselves a light that transcends any material or logical definition. It is a light that cannot be seen with ordinary eyes, but that reverberates throughout their existence, impacting every place they go, every person they interact with. It is a light that comes from within, and although we cannot always explain it, it is perceived by the forces that surround us. This light is like a fire that burns without consuming. It illuminates the paths, both one's own and those of others. And although its presence is inspiring, it also attracts the shadows, the forces that resist this clarity. The intensity of this light is something that the chosen feel, sometimes as a natural force, an impetus that leads them to act with purpose and compassion, and other times as a burden, a feeling of heaviness, for this light does not allow for passivity. She calls them to live with integrity, to recognize the truth in a world where the truth is often distorted. But this same intensity is what draws the attention of the forces that prefer darkness, those that are uncomfortable with any source of light that could expose their shadows. It is a natural contrast, a spiritual law. Where there is light, shadows inevitably appear, because the very existence of light reveals what was hidden. This attraction is not subtle, it is felt in many ways. For those who carry this light, the world becomes a field of invisible forces that constantly interact with them. When they enter an environment, their presence causes an immediate impact, altering the energy around them. There are those who feel naturally comfortable, drawn to this energy, inspired to be better simply by being around the chosen ones. But there are also those, people and entities, who feel a deep restlessness, a silent resistance, a hostility that they often cannot even explain. Because this light, so pure and intense, illuminates your own shadows and reveals your weaknesses, your conflicts, your disconnections. This attraction, which seems contradictory, is part of the mission of the chosen ones. They were not only called to spread this light in places that already accept it, but also to bring clarity where darkness reigns, to challenge that which is stagnant and covered up. And this mission is not easy. Darkness, when revealed, naturally withdraws, resists, tries to maintain its territory. And it is at this point that the true strength of the chosen ones is tested, as they cannot hide. Their light, once awakened, cannot be extinguished, and this places them in a vulnerable, but also extremely powerful position. They are seen, noticed, perceived, because their presence radiates a truth that cannot be ignored. Carrying this light means being in a constant battle. It is living in a reality where both benevolent and dark forces watch you, some to guide, protect, and strengthen, and others to weaken, divert, and obscure. This battle is not just external, it is internal, as the chosen ones also face their own shadows, their own dilemmas, and moments of doubt. Dark forces take advantage of these moments, trying to put out this flame, trying to make the chosen ones doubt their own light. But it is precisely in these moments of vulnerability that they discover the depth of their strength. For the light they carry does not depend on external circumstances. It is innate. It is the very essence of who they are. Those who possess this light, when they realize its impact, realize that they are not just here to shine in moments of peace. They understand that their mission requires a quiet courage, a determination to stand firm even when shadows try to obscure their path. Because they know their impact is necessary. They know that their simple presence can bring comfort, hope, and inspiration to those who are lost, and that their light can guide others out of the darkness. The duality of attracting both good and evil is a reality that the chosen ones learn to accept. They know that their light not only attracts those who seek the truth, but also those who are afraid of it. It is an inevitable attraction, like a lighthouse in the midst of a storm, a reference point for both lost sailors and those who wish to extinguish their light. And by recognizing this duality, they become more aware of the power they carry and the responsibility it entails. The light of the chosen ones, far from being a simple gift, is a task, a call to live with purpose, even in the midst of the forces that try to extinguish its shine. Those who carry the light of the chosen ones know that, in many cases, their simple presence generates discomfort in other people. There is no need to say anything or act differently. It is enough to be there, existing, for some people around to feel uncomfortable, uneasy, or even intimidated. This reaction, often silent and subtle, reveals a profound and almost paradoxical aspect of the spiritual journey of the chosen ones. The power of their light not only illuminates and brings comfort, but also provokes resistance from those who are not ready to confront their own shadows. For many, the reflection of the light of the chosen acts like a revealing mirror. When someone is close to a chosen one, it is as if their own internal conflicts, traumas, and insecurities come to the surface, reflected back to them. It is an experience that not everyone is willing or prepared to face. In these moments, those chosen may notice looks of judgment, distance, or even hostility, but it is important to understand that this resistance rarely has to do with something they did or said. It is largely a subconscious reaction, a self-defense reflex that protects what many hide from themselves. This misunderstanding, or even rejection, can be difficult to deal with, especially when those chosen do not seek to cause conflict. Their mission is to spread light and truth, but paradoxically, it is this very light that often bothers. And not because the chosen ones intend this, but because they represent something different, a spiritual clarity that exposes the contradictions and weak points in the beliefs, habits, and behaviors that many people have. Being around someone who lives with this constant truth and intense spiritual connection can be unsettling for those who still resist confronting their own flaws and inconsistencies. There is an essential detail here. This resistance does not necessarily mean evil or conscious hostility. Many do not even understand why they feel uncomfortable with their chosen ones. They may even sympathize with them on a superficial level, but something inside them, a part that may not yet be ready to accept certain truths, reacts in a way that pushes them away. It is a type of spiritual self-defense, a barrier that is erected to preserve the comfort zone. After all, looking at our own shadows and recognizing the areas where we need growth can be painful. For some, it is easier to push away or reject the one who makes them see such truths than to truly dive into the journey of self-discovery and transformation. This dynamic can create a feeling of isolation for the chosen ones, as if they are surrounded by people who don't understand them, or who, even unconsciously, see them as a threat. And it is important that they understand that this reaction is often a reflection of the spiritual state of the people around them, and not their own fault. The resistance they face is, in many cases, a sign that their presence is causing an awakening, albeit unwanted, in those around them. By bringing light, they inevitably end up exposing the shadows, and not everyone is ready to face that. However, there is a transformative side to this process. Even though many resist or do not understand, there are those who, inspired by the presence of the chosen ones, find the courage to look inside themselves and begin their own process of healing and transformation. The light of the chosen ones can be disturbing, but it can also inspire those who are in search of something more, who are willing to question and transform their own interior. Therefore, even if they face resistance, those chosen have the potential to be catalysts for growth and spiritual awakening, offering a path for those who, despite being afraid, are ready to take the first steps on the journey of self-understanding. The misunderstanding and resistance that the chosen face are part of their journey. Far from being obstacles to be removed, these reactions are opportunities for learning and spiritual strengthening. They remind us that not everyone is ready to see the truth, but that nevertheless, the chosen ones are called to continue in their mission, offering their light even when that light generates discomfort. Understanding this resistance as a natural reaction allows those chosen to continue firmly on their path, aware that their role is to be a lighthouse, and that, even in their incomprehension, they are fulfilling their mission of bringing light to a world that still struggles to understand what is happening. True power of spiritual transformation. The life of a chosen one does not go unnoticed. In fact, she is constantly observed, and this divine surveillance goes far beyond simple monitoring. It is a test, a process of refinement that touches the soul on a deep level, revealing both strengths and weaknesses. Being under the attention of higher forces may seem like overwhelming pressure to some, but to the chosen one, it is a sign that their life has a greater purpose. This constant gaze is a form of testing, a divine test that is always present, silent but firm, watching every choice, every action, every thought. Surveillance is not an end in itself. It exists to shape the chosen one, to transform them into a stronger and purer version of themselves, someone capable of resisting temptations and facing trials with the strength that only faith and spiritual understanding can offer. It is a process that can be uncomfortable, even painful, but is essential for spiritual growth. This type of test is not applied to judge, but to improve. Just as fire purifies gold, daily trials, unexpected challenges, and persistent temptations act as a heat that removes impurities from the soul, polishing the spirit of the chosen one. The divine test manifests itself in moments that, for many, may seem like common life challenges, but which, for the chosen one, have a different depth. These are situations in which he is called to prove his faith, to resist what is easy or comfortable, and to make decisions that reflect his essence and spiritual values. Divine watchfulness watches patiently, not to condemn or correct, but to see how the chosen one chooses to react. It is in these reactions that true character is revealed, and it is in them that the molding process takes place. This vigilance also brings with it a sense of responsibility. The chosen one, upon realizing that his life is under the watchful eye of greater forces, begins to develop a deeper awareness of his actions and choices. He becomes more attentive, more aware of the importance of each word, each step, because he knows that they carry a spiritual weight. This awareness of being constantly under observation strengthens your discipline, your ethics, and your commitment to your own spiritual journey. And of course, temptations are an inevitable part of this process. For the chosen ones, temptations are like subtle traps that test their resolve. They can appear in the form of worldly desires, vanity, doubts, or even an attempt to stray from your path. The purpose of these temptations is not to make the chosen one fail, but to allow him to prove himself, and above all, to strengthen his connection with the divine. Resisting temptations is a spiritual exercise, a way to strengthen character and reaffirm commitment to the greater purpose that it carries. There are also moments of trial, those moments of loss, of pain, of uncertainty. For the chosen one, these trials are opportunities for growth. Divine surveillance accompanies each of these moments, observing not only the result, but the process, the decisions that are made in the heat of difficulty. It is in moments of trial that the true spiritual value of a chosen one is revealed, and it is in these moments that he comes closer to the divine, finding strength and courage that he did not know he possessed. This divine test is ultimately a blessing. It prepares the chosen one for something greater, a mission that requires maturity, strength, and unshakable faith. Without these challenges, the chosen one could never reach the full potential that was destined for him. Divine vigilance is, then, a proof of the love and care that the universe or the Creator has for those who have been called to serve at a higher level. It is a way of ensuring that the chosen one is prepared for what is to come, that they have the skills, resilience, and discernment necessary to fulfill their purpose. Therefore, being observed is, yes, necessary. It is a process of refinement that reveals the best in the chosen one and prepares him for the greatness of his spiritual destiny. And by understanding the meaning and importance of this test, the chosen one learns to welcome this vigilance with gratitude, knowing that each moment, each challenge, is an opportunity for growth, a chance to become closer to what he was destined for. Being Daniel and Job are figures who, over the centuries, continue to resonate as profound examples of faith and spiritual resistance. These men, facing extreme challenges and adversity, remind us that the path of the chosen is not simple, but is undoubtedly filled with meaning and purpose. The trajectory of Daniel and Job shows us that trials, although difficult, are part of a greater process of strengthening and molding the spirit. Daniel, a young man exiled in a foreign land, faced constant tests of his faith. In a culture that did not respect his beliefs and sought to divert him from his spirituality, Daniel kept his connection with the divine intact, even at the risk of his own life. He resisted the pressure to conform to the ways of the Babylonian kingdom, choosing to remain true to what he knew to be true in his heart. His story is an example of how commitment to one's faith should not be weakened, even when everything around suggests giving in. Daniel didn't just survive the challenges, he prospered, and his light shone so brightly that even the Babylonian king, a pagan ruler, recognized the power of Daniel's God. Daniel's integrity and spiritual focus were rewarded, showing that those who remain steadfast in their beliefs receive divine strength and protection in return. Job, on the other hand, offers us a different but equally powerful perspective on what it means to be tested. He was a righteous man who lived in harmony with the divine and led an exemplary life. However, it was he who faced some of the most intense and painful trials a human being can endure. He lost everything he loved and owned, from his family to his health, and was placed in a situation of extreme suffering. For many, what Job went through would seem unfair, incomprehensible. Yet even in the midst of his pain and desolation, he did not curse the divine. He did not abandon his faith. Job questioned, yes, he felt pain, he lamented. But deep down, he maintained a thread of hope and respect for the mystery that was his existence and the superior force that guided him. And this unshakable faith, even in the deepest darkness, eventually led to his restoration. Job teaches us that although pain and loss are part of the journey, they are not the end. His story is proof that faith, when maintained, is capable of transcending even the harshest of sufferings. These figures show that trials are inevitable for the chosen ones, and that resistance in the midst of these trials is what defines us. Daniel and Job were observed, tested, and pressured to the extreme, but in the end, they showed that true faith is that which remains, even when everything seems to be against us. Their journey is a reminder that when we are called, our faith will be tested, whether in situations of great temptation, as in the case of Daniel, or in moments of profound loss, as in the life of Job. The strength that Daniel and Job demonstrated in their stories is what makes their narratives eternal. They are examples to all the chosen who face opposition, pain, and doubt. Their stories teach us that faith is not a guarantee of an easy life, but it is the foundation that sustains us, that guides us through the storms. As we look at Daniel and Job, we are reminded that faith is a commitment that requires resilience, courage, and above all, a deep trust in the divine, even when we cannot understand the whys of our trials. For those chosen, the examples of Daniel and Job are a source of strength and a reminder that we are not alone in our challenges. Their stories are proof that although the path may be hard and the trials intense, faith in something greater can sustain us. They inspire us to move on, knowing that like them, we are also observed, tested, and in the end, strengthened by the process. For those who carry the light of the chosen ones, the feeling of being constantly observed is something real and often persistent. It is an experience that may seem strange or even disturbing, but which is part of the path of those who have a spiritual mission. Feeling observed, especially at levels that go beyond what is visible, is a reminder that we are not alone, that our journey is accompanied by benevolent forces, and at times, by forces that would prefer our light to be turned off. Dealing with this vigilance, however, requires balance and constant spiritual practice that maintains our mind, heart, and spirit centered. Prayer is a fundamental tool for dealing with the feeling of being observed. When we pray, we create a direct connection with the divine, establishing a link that strengthens and protects us. Prayer is not just a request for help, it is also a shield, a statement that we are anchored in what is sacred and eternal. Through it, we can express our fears, our doubts, and even our frustrations with the feeling of vigilance. By sharing these emotions with the divine, we find comfort and clarity because we know that we are being heard. Prayer helps us remember that while we may feel the presence of forces that observe us, we are under the protection of something much greater. Meditation is another essential practice, as it allows us to return to the center and calm our minds in the face of spiritual vigilance. Meditating is an act of introspection and alignment, where, by silencing our thoughts, we can connect with the deepest part of our being. When we are in a meditative state, we are able to perceive this vigilance in a more neutral way, less loaded with emotions. Meditation teaches us that spiritual observation need not be a source of restlessness, but a memory that we are part of something grand and complex. It helps us accept this sensation as a natural part of our path and prepares us to deal with it more serenely and consciously. The practice of gratitude is another fundamental pillar for those who feel observed. By expressing gratitude, both for good and trials, we cultivate an energy that transcends fear and doubt. To be grateful, even because of the feeling of being observed, is to recognize that this experience is an opportunity for growth. She reminds us that we are being shaped for something bigger. Gratitude transforms our perspective, helping us to see spiritual vigilance as a sign of our importance and purpose rather than a threat. In addition to these practices, it is important that the chosen ones develop an energy protection routine. Simple acts, such as light visualizations around the body, can create a spiritual shield that prevents dense and disharmonious energies from influencing our peace. Viewing a white or golden light involving our body as a protective armor is a powerful practice to deal with the feeling of being observed. This visualization gives us security, reminding us that we have the power to protect our own energy and to establish spiritual limits. The connection with nature is also a way of relieving the feeling of spiritual vigilance. Nature, in its simplicity and grandeur, helps us feel part of the whole. When walking in a park, sitting near a tree, or just watching the sky, we are remembered that life is vast and that the spirit world is just an extension of this immensity. Being in contact with nature strengthens us and reminds us that although we can be observed, we are also firmly rooted in the here and now, in the beauty of the physical world. For the chosen ones, dealing with this feeling of being observed is not about escaping it, but about learning to live it with serenity and confidence. With regular spiritual practices, they can remain firm and balanced, recognizing that the vigilance they feel is part of the process of evolution. Instead of seeing this presence as a threatening, it is possible to see it as a sign that they are on the right track, fulfilling a mission that is closely monitored by forces that cheer for their success and growth. The life of a chosen one is, in many ways, an invisible battlefield. The feeling of being in constant vigilance is intensified by the reality of a spiritual battle that unfolds every moment, an incessant struggle between the forces of light and darkness. For the chosen ones, the very essence of who they are, their inner light, is a statement of presence in a world where these forces are in constant movement, competing for space, influence, and impact. There is no truce in this battle, and the chosen one feels this pressure in his spirit, as if he were always in the midst of a silent storm, being observed by both forces that they desire their growth and those who would prefer their failure. This struggle between light and darkness is not only external, but also internal. Each thought, every choice, every impulse is a small battle that reflects the greatest war that is at stake. The chosen ones carry a light within themselves that attracts both good and evil. This light is something that illuminates the way to others, but it also bothers the dark forces that would prefer the world to remain in the dimness of ignorance and fear. And thus the presence of the chosen ones becomes a threat to those who seek to spread darkness for their own existence, their will to grow spiritually and to live with. Purpose weakens darkness. It is important to understand that this spiritual battle is not just a matter of direct confrontation with visible opposition forces. Often, she is silent, subtle, and manifests herself in thoughts, doubts, and emotions that seem to arise out of nowhere. The feeling of being observed intensifies this struggle, for the chosen ones are always under the watchful eye of forces that expect to find a breach, a moment of weakness in which they can sow discouragement, fear, or temptation to give up the way. It is in this scenario that the spiritual resilience of the chosen ones is put to the test. They are challenged to keep the mind clear, the strong heart, and the vigilant spirit. The attacks are not always straightforward. They may come disguised as worldly temptations, situations that test patience, or even circumstances that move emotional vulnerabilities. Forces of darkness try to undermine the strength of the chosen ones, attacking their insecurities, making them question their own value, and often instigating a feeling of isolation and misunderstanding. This is one of the greatest challenges of spiritual battle. The chosen ones not only face external adversities, but they also need to overcome their own internal shadows, for darkness often tries to disguise as a familiar voice within us. Spiritual vigilance is both a protection and a reminder of the seriousness of this battle. Knowing that they are being observed by light forces who want to guide and protect them offers a source of comfort. But at the same time, the presence of eyes that prefer to see them fail is a constant reminder that the spiritual path is not easy. The pressure to be observed, to know that each step, each decision is important, intensifies the responsibility that the chosen ones feel. This consciousness strengthens them, for it reminds them that they are not just living for themselves, but for a greater purpose, for a mission that goes beyond their individual desires and interests. In this battle, the chosen ones develop a spirit of resistance and discipline. They learn that true strength is not only in overcoming external enemies, but in mastering themselves, understanding their weaknesses, and cultivating their virtues. They become spiritual warriors, not because they seek struggle, but because they recognize the need to defend their light in a world where shadows always try to obscure the brilliance of those who dare to illuminate. The constant spiritual battle can be exhaustive, and the chosen ones at some point feel the weight of this invisible war. But even in the midst of tiredness, there is a certainty that this fight is not in vain. Each obstacle surpassed, every resistance temptation, and each darkness faced contribute to strengthening the inner light they carry. It is as if each experience cut them, making them increasingly strong, increasingly close to their divine essence. Therefore, the chosen ones face this battle with faith, knowing that the presence of darkness is partly proof of its importance. The pressure of being observed is not just a burden, but a testimony of the power and purpose they carry. They know that as long as they remain firm, they will continue to radiate light, bringing clarity and hope to a world that still struggles to find their way. Spiritual consciousness is one of the most precious elements that a chosen one can cultivate. It is she who sustains and illuminates the path of those who were called to a larger mission. When a chosen one wakes up to this consciousness, his perception expands, and he comes to see beyond appearances, beyond the surface of things. He begins to perceive the divine presence in every detail of life, and this brings a new depth and clarity to its existence. It is as if his spiritual eyes are open, allowing him to see the strengths that protect him and guide him, as well as those who want to divert him from his purpose. This state of consciousness is like an inner compass, which allows the chosen to browse the challenges and trials more safely. By being aware of opposite forces, those who work to strengthen their way and those who seek to minimize it, the chosen one can make wiser decisions, guided not by fear or doubt, but for deep confidence in their mission. Spiritual awareness helps you recognize what is truly important, avoiding distractions and traps that could divert it. He understands that each decision, every thought, is inserted in a larger network of meanings and impacts, and this inspires him to live with integrity and purpose. Being aware of the divine presence does not mean that difficulties disappear, but it brings a sense of protection and purpose that makes the path less lonely. The chosen one knows that even at the darker moments, he is not alone. There is a superior force that observes, guides, and protects. This consciousness provides an inner force that transcends common understanding. It is a peace that does not break easily, for it comes from a certainty that is not shaken by external circumstances. The chosen one understands that he is part of something much greater, that his journey has a spiritual value that goes beyond what his eyes can see. Moreover, spiritual consciousness also makes him vigilant. He knows that, while benevolent forces accompany him, there are others who try to deflect him from the way. By being aware of these opposite forces, the chosen one develops a sharper discernment, an ability to feel and distinguish what is good from what is destructive. This discernment is an essential tool, as not all influences are clearly visible. Spiritual awareness allows him to realize when something or someone is interfering with his inner peace, and he learns to protect himself spiritually, to set limits that preserve his energy and strengthen his commitment to his mission. It is this consciousness that allows the chosen to stay true to the way, even when everything around seems to crumble. In a world where so many negative distractions and influences are lurking, the chosen one stands out for his ability to focus, to walk with purpose. He understands that each obstacle is an opportunity for growth, a chance to deepen his connection with the divine. And by maintaining this connection alive and active, it becomes a strong and stable presence, someone who does not easily be shaken by the storms of life. Finally, spiritual consciousness is what allows the chosen to constantly remember who he is and why his journey. She is the link that connects him to the divine, who keeps his faith intact and his strong spirit. By cultivating this conscience, the chosen one finds the courage to face any challenge, the wisdom to discern what is true, and the open heart to accept what comes, knowing that everything is part of a larger plan. Being spiritually conscious is ultimately recognizing that their life is sacred, that each step has purpose, and that although forces can try to deviate it, its light, when strengthened by this consciousness, is unshakable. It is this clarity that makes the chosen one can stay firm, knowing that the journey can be long, but that its mission is eternal and its essence divine. Keeping a spiritual alarm is one of the most significant roles, and at the same time, more challenging than a chosen one can carry. It is a weight that goes beyond simple existence. It is a responsibility that involves the very essence of life purpose. Those who are called to this role have a flame that cannot be turned off, a light that shines so intensely that inevitably impacts those around them. The presence of a chosen, even in silence, has the power to awaken something dormant in others, to provoke reflections and changes that otherwise never arise. For many, the first contact with a chosen one can be an experience that generates comfort and curiosity, but can also cause discomfort and resistance. The light of the chosen, his presence, often acts as a mirror, reflecting on others what they may have avoided seeing in themselves. And it is precisely in this reflection that the role of alarm gains even more relevance. The chosen one is not here to just live. He is here to illuminate, to inspire, and sometimes to provoke deep questions that lead to transformation. And this, of course, is not an easy process, because spiritual awakening rarely happens without a dose of challenge and deconstruction. The weight of this responsibility is intensely felt. The chosen one realizes that, throughout his journey, it will constantly be an example, either by the way he deals with his own trials, or by the way his faith lives and expresses his values. He need not preach or force his truth to others. Your life is by itself a message, a declaration of commitment to something greater. And the people around them observe, absorb, and often are transformed by this coexistence. The great truth is that the chosen ones, even without words, convey an invitation to awakening, showing that there is a different way, a way of life that is in tune with the truth and spiritual essence. However, this role also implies a certain deal of loneliness and misunderstanding. By assuming the role of alarm clock, the chosen one realizes that not everyone is ready for the transformation, that not everyone wants to get out of the comfort of their spiritual familiarity zone. It finds resistance, distancing, and sometimes even opposition. This can be painful, especially when this resistance comes from close people. It is a journey in which, as much as the chosen one wants everyone to experience the same awakening, he knows that each soul has its time, and that forcing someone's way is not part of its role. The true alarm clock is the one who understands that his role is to plant seeds, not to tear the weeds from the gardens of others. Despite the weight and difficulties, the chosen one also finds great joy in seeing souls around him awakening, connecting with his own spiritual essence. He realizes that every small transformation, every look that opens for new possibilities, is a silent victory, proof that his mission is being accomplished. To be an example, a light lighthouse in the midst of a world full of uncertainty and illusions is a work that requires patience, humility, and deep faith in what is invisible. The chosen one knows that their mission is not to ensure that everyone wakes up, but being there, present and available to those who are ready to see the light. Along the way, the chosen one understands that he is not alone in his role. There are other alarm clocks, other souls that also carry the responsibility of guiding, inspiring, illuminating. He connects with these souls, finding in them a spiritual brotherhood, a breath to the weight he carries. And together, they form a net of light that gradually transforms the world around it. The role of spiritual alarm is undoubtedly a challenging mission, but it is also one of the noblest and most rewarding missions that a chosen one can have. He knows that by illuminating the way to others, he also strengthens his own light, and seeing the impact that his presence can have on the lives of those around him, he finds the motivation to continue, to move on with an open heart and mind, attuned to his greater purpose. Because in the end, the mission of the chosen is this: being a lighthouse that illuminates the shadows, which points to a greater truth and awakens in the souls around the memory of who they really are. For the chosen ones, the spiritual journey never, it is traded alone. From the first awakening, there is an almost innate sensation that, even in the most challenging situations, there is a presence by its side, an invisible protection that guides and welcomes them. It is the spiritual guides and the protective angels, entities that remain by their side, ensuring that even in the darker moments the path is enlightened. These guides and angels are faithful and constant companions, invisible to the eyes, but always perceived to those who have spiritual sensitivity. For the chosen ones, this connection is a deep source of safety and comfort. Often, they experience situations in which, without logical explanation, find an exit, a sign, or an understanding that rescues them from a difficult situation. This almost magical intervention, which seems to happen at the exact moment, is one of the clear signs that the guides are acting, ensuring that the chosen one does not get lost in the way and that his mission continues. The performance of these guides and angels is delicate and subtle. They do not directly interfere, do not make decisions in the name of the chosen ones, but send signs, light touches, and intuitive impressions that, when followed, take the chosen in the right direction. They respect free will, allowing each one to make their own choices and learn from them. However, they are always attentive, ready to intervene when the risk is high or when the chosen one is at a time of great vulnerability. It is in these moments of greater fragility that the presence of these beings is more felt, almost like an invisible hug that brings relief and courage. For those who follow the spiritual path, it is common to perceive the communication of spiritual guides and protective angels in various forms. It can be messages that come up in dreams, repetitive signs such as numbers or symbols, or even that inexplicable feeling that something is or is not right. The chosen ones learn over time to decode these messages, to hear the whisper of their guides, and to trust their intuition. This intuitive connection is a valuable ability because it is through it that they can capture accurate guidelines, even in the most confusing situations. More than protecting and guiding, these guides and angels have the mission of reminding the chosen ones of their own light and their potential. When the path becomes difficult and doubts threaten to click the mind and heart, they are present to strengthen the spirit, to ensure that the chosen one does not forget who he is and why his journey. They are true spiritual mentors who teach patience, courage, and especially faith. For although invisible, they represent the certainty that the chosen one is not alone and that their mission is part of something much larger, part of a divine plan that cares and protects. For the chosen ones, understanding and strengthening this connection with spiritual guides is essential. Through prayer, meditation, and spiritual opening, they learn to connect more deeply with these beings, to perceive their presence, and to thank them for their protection. This constant communication helps to strengthen the relationship of confidence and to further open the heart for signs and guidance. As the bond strengthens, the chosen ones feel the presence of the guides more tangibly, as if they were close friends who walk by their side, sharing both moments of joy and moments of proof. Spiritual guides and protective angels are a manifestation of divine care, proof that the journey of the chosen is not a lonely crossing. They are the invisible support, the attentive eyes that accompany each step, ready to intervene whenever necessary. Knowing that they are present is one of the greatest sources of peace and strength for the chosen ones, who, with this certainty, follow firmly, knowing that they are protected and that no matter how difficult the journey can become, there will always be a light for Gia. They back to their sacred path. Communication with spiritual guides is a subtle but powerful link that the chosen ones learn to recognize and cultivate throughout their journeys. These guides, always present and attentive, do not usually manifest themselves obviously or directly. Instead, they operate through subtle forms that require sensitivity and attention to be perceived. It is like a silent language, an exchange of energy that goes beyond words, and manifests itself in signs, dreams, intuitions, and synchronics. By learning to decipher these spiritual touches, the chosen ones receive directions, comfort, and guidelines that keep them on their way. Dreams are one of the most common and powerful forms of communication between the guides and the chosen ones. In times of rest and vulnerability, the rational mind is paid, making room for the subconscious to be expressed. It is in this state that guides find an open door to send symbolic messages, visions, and sometimes even spiritual meetings. A dream can carry an important message, an answer to a question, or confirmation about something that the chosen one has already intuited. Those who pay attention to these dreams, who write down and reflect on them, often discover layers of meaning that strengthen their connection with the guides and expand their understanding of the challenges they face. In addition to dreams, intuition is another way of essential communication. Intuition is that feeling, that inexplicable sensation that arises out of nowhere, but brings internal clarity about what should or should not be done. Spiritual guides often send directions through intuition, whispering to the heart of the chosen and offering a knowledge that cannot be explained by rational means. For those who are sensitive to this intuitive language, the guidance of the guides becomes a reliable compass. This intuitive sense is a gift that grows over time as the chosen ones learn to hear and trust in their own inner voice, recognizing in it the echo of their guides' messages. Signs and synchronicities are also forms of communication widely used by spiritual guides. They may appear in the form of repeated numbers, such as 1111 or 333, or in recurring symbols that appear at timely times. A butterfly that appears at a time of decision, a song that plays exactly when you are thinking of something specific, or even a sentence you accidentally read, and that seems to be the answer to an intimate question. All of these are signs. They are not random coincidences. These are subtle reminders that the guides are present, that they are listening and send answers and confirmations to strengthen the faith of the chosen. These synchronicities play an important role as they reaffirm the connection of the chosen one with the universe and the guides. It is as if the world around him is talking to him, confirming that he is on the right track and that his choices are in harmony with the divine plane. For the chosen ones, these occurrences are more than simple casualities. They are connection points with something bigger, moments that bring the certainty that they are being guided with accuracy and love. Over time, the chosen ones learn to cultivate a state of presence and openness, a state where they are attentive to the whispers of their guides. They practice the stillness of the mind through meditation, seek to understand their own feelings and intuitions, and trust the journey without having to understand every detail. In doing so, they become increasingly tuned to the language of the guides, capturing messages more easily and recognizing that even in silent days, they are being observed and supported. Communication with spiritual guides is a delicate dance, a silent exchange that strengthens the confidence of the chosen on its own way. By opening for this communication, he finds that he is never really alone, that there is constant spiritual support, transmitted in subtle but deeply significant ways. This connection is a source of strength and clarity, a comforting presence that resembles the chosen one of its own divine essence and its mission in the world. The chosen journey is, above all, a mission of deep responsibility. This is not just a personal growth experience or a path of internal discoveries. To be a chosen is to accept a call that goes far beyond the borders of the self and recognize that there is a greater purpose in which it is inserted. The essence of this responsibility is the impact he can and should have on the world around him. The life of a chosen is a constant testimony, a living demonstration that light, compassion, and truth are powerful forces that have the power to transform realities. The purpose of a chosen one is not limited to his own spiritual development. It carries in itself the task of being a source of inspiration, an example for those who sometimes feel lost or disoriented. His journey is proof that it is possible to transcend difficulties, find meaning even in the most challenging situations, and above all, live according to high values that honor the divine. Each decision, each action, and each word has the potential to positively influence those around it. And, in assuming this responsibility, the chosen one radiates a light that can awaken the best in others. This impact, however, is not about saving the world or changing people's lives directly. It is often in small actions, in the simplest gestures, that the chosen one fulfills its purpose. By living with integrity and authenticity, facing his own shadows and dealing with his trials consciously, he inspires others to do the same. It becomes a reflection of what each of us can be in following the call of the soul, embracing a life of purpose and delivery. The chosen ones are transformation catalysts. They plant seeds to awaken in the people around them, allowing each one to flourish in their own time and according to their own journey. The responsibility of a chosen one requires humility, because he knows that the purpose he carries is not about magnifying himself, but about serving something much greater. He understands that his light is not for him. It is a gift to be shared, a gift for those who cross their way. This brings a silent grandeur, a certainty that its role, however much it seems, is essential in the great mosaic of existence. Every soul he touches, every heart he inspires, contributes to the collective awakening, to the construction of a more compassionate and conscious world. Throughout this journey, the chosen one also remembers that it is part of a larger chain of lights, which there are others chosen around the world, each fulfilling its own role. And together, they form a transformation network, a wave of change that, even in the midst of the difficulties of the world, keeps hope alive. They are the bearers of a new conscience, those who show, through their own life, that peace, love, and truth are real and accessible forces. In the end, the purpose of the chosen is simple but immense: to live in a way to make a difference. Be a presence of light in a world where shadows often prevail. Inspire, guide, and serve as a lighthouse for those who seek, even unknowingly, the way back to themselves. The journey of the chosen is in commitment of soul, an alliance with the divine to keep the flame of transformation and hope alive, always remembering that each step taken into light contributes to a more bright and meaningful world.